ready when you are.
Okay. Wow, what a year. Although this is my first year being a part of this wonderful class, I definitely learned a lot. In my life outside of the classroom, I've had probably the hardest year of my life. But many discussions we had in class gave me little bits of insight that ultimately helped me make it through the entire year. We started off this class back in August, and if there were two words I could use to describe my mental state at that point in time, it would be overwhelmed and expectant. I was overwhelmed with so many things in my life in that point in time, but I was also expecting for more and more to be added onto my plate. Honestly, it was so much, and I just wanted to keep everything under control. Which brings me to the topic I want to discuss today, which is the desire for control. For me, being in control means knowing how to deal with circumstances around you effectively and efficiently. Being in control means strength and authority and knowledge. As human beings, we all desire to have control over our own lives and others to some extent. Yet, as Christians, we know we are called to surrender the little control that we have to Jesus because he knows the best course of action. As our class saw throughout the year, many of the books we read showcase scenarios in which people let their desire for control them. In Frankenstein, we saw Victor Frankenstein create a monster. Victor wanted to play God and to be all-knowing. When the lost doctor finally realizes how terribly he messed up, the regret and desire to control his actions consumes him, and he just wants to end the madness. However, too often, mistakes we make cause an irreparable timeline of events that stretch beyond our control. This book to me was a great example of how our desire for knowledge and supremacy can outweigh our rational thought. Because if we try to be in control of every aspect of our life, we are pretty much just telling God that we ultimately know better than he does. Now, when our class read Lord of the Flies, we saw a fight for control as the boys, trapped on an island, fought to have at least a small amount of power over their circumstances. In their world of uncertainty and uncontrollable events, power was one of the few aspects of their life on the island that was relatively attainable. Being in control on the island was appealing because the boy in charge was able to dictate what actions the rest of them took. Knowing what's coming provides a sense of security, but in order to make it to that sense of security, the boys had to gain power and ultimately control. In 1984, the government was completely controlling their citizens, down to the thoughts inside of their minds. This power-seeking government wanted to play God in the same way Dr. Frankenstein wanted to play God. They wanted to control and create human life. The government had obtained so much control and power over their citizens, they now believed they were creating their citizens. Now, in my day-to-day life, I'm not creating monsters, fighting my peers to be chief, or ruling an all-controlling government, but I still struggle with the desire to control. I want to control my circumstances, my emotions, my choices, and my life. I desire to know what's next so I can prepare for it. In fact, one of the goals I have in life is to feel secure. So striving for control over everything is the best way to do that, right? Wrong. This year, God has been working on my heart in many ways, specifically in these desires of mine. I've had to learn that sometimes being safe doesn't always mean knowing what comes next. Sometimes being safe means trusting in my God who always knows what's coming next. Sometimes being safe means handing my worries and fears to the Lord because he has a plan for me, and that plan is far greater than anything I can imagine or even prepare for. In This Is Our Time, I was reminded of an extremely important truth. We are never at home on earth because our eternal home is in heaven with the Lord our God. Because we are never at home on earth, we won't ever feel completely secure. Let me say that again. We won't ever feel fully secure on earth. This may sound scary and slightly hopeless, and if I'm being honest, it still intimidates me. However, we aren't supposed to feel at home on earth because our eternal home is with Christ. Christ died to make a way for us to get to our eternal home with our eternal Father and Christ is with us through every out-of-control situation we will encounter here while we're on earth. So, as I read and mulled over this truth, it's become a great sense of comfort. I don't have to have everything planned. God's got me, and He's never letting go. My life this year has been tumultuous at best, but through it all, I've been able to hold out hope for brighter days because I know that God is in control. Thank you.
Kayleigh, snap her out. Oh my goodness, that was great. Hold on. There we go. I got the recording started.